Hi, I'm Susan Todd again from the Bible and Pictures Ministry. And today we're going to talk about a smaller animal, and that is the beaver. God created and designed him in a really unique way. And there's so many things we can learn about him. We're going to try and get them all in for you today. When we go swimming, a lot of times we wear these things, which are called goggles. And what we do with those is they keep out any kinds of irritants in the water, and it also helps us to see when we're swimming where we're going, okay, so we don't bump into things. Well, the beaver spends most of his life underwater, but God gave him a very special set of eyelids, and he has two sets again, all right? He has his normal set so that he can close them like our eyes are closed when we want to go to sleep, but he also has a transparent set of eyelids so he can see when his eyelids are closed. And the reason he has to do this is because he has to be able to see where he's going. He has to be able to see what he's doing underwater. So God gave him those very special eyelids. Another thing we do when we go swimming is a lot of times we'll plug these little boogers into our ears, okay? Ear plugs. And they keep the water out. Man, if you've ever gotten water in your ears when you're swimming, it hurts. So we use these little earplugs to help us keep that water out. But guess what? The beaver doesn't have pockets to put his earplugs in. So what God did for him was he gave him built-in earplugs. As soon as he hits the water, those valves in his ears close, keeping the water out of his ears and not bothering him. We also tend to use this, which is a nose plug, if you can see that, okay? And again, it keeps the water out of our nose. Beavers don't have pockets, remember? So what God did for them was he allowed him to have valves also in his nose that can close when he hits the water to keep the water out there. So God really thought about everything for this little guy to help him live an aquatic lifestyle. Now, when you think of the beaver, what is the first thing you think about? For me, it's his choppers, right? His teeth. He doesn't have a lot of them, but he's famous for those two front curved teeth that he has in the front. And what we do when we want to groom our teeth is we use the old toothbrush, right? Beavers don't have toothbrushes. So what they do is they chew on sticks. And those sticks help to clean his teeth. They also help to sharpen his teeth. He has to keep his teeth at a specific length. If they continue to grow and grow and grow, he'll never get his mouth closed. So by chewing on sticks, it also helps to keep his teeth at a specific length. Now, what did they use their teeth for? Well, if we were going to cut down a tree, we would use a saw. This little puppy's not going to cut much, as you can see. That's why we're going to go to our beaver, and he's going to be able to cut down sticks and branches and entire trees in a real short period of time. That's what beavers are pretty much known for. Now, they have front paws, and their front paws are like our hands. They actually have 5 fingers, like this glove has, okay? And you see that I can really maneuver my fingers really well by having them separated, all right? And beavers use them when they eat, okay? They can actually eat corn like we do with these nice fingers that they have that God has given them. But on their back feet, they don't have individual fingers like that. They have, and I'm going to use my swim glove here, they have what is like a web, all right? Between their toes, there's webbing. Now, why would they need the webbing on the back and not on the front? Well, the webbing really helps them propel through the water a lot faster. Now, I got to let you in on a little secret. I can't swim. Never have been able to. I mean, when I was little, about 7 years old, I almost drowned, and I've been afraid of water ever since. I would not make a very good beaver. I can be wearing goggles and earplugs and nose plugs and floaty things all over me and a vest and everything, and I still sink, okay? I don't like the water. But God didn't design me to live in an aquatic lifestyle like he did the beaver, all right? So, the other thing we have that the beaver has is his fur. God gave him very, very special fur. And what he does with his fur, it's like what we do when we get up in the morning, he grooms his fur, and he grooms it a lot. Now, we use a comb, okay? He doesn't exactly have a comb, but God gave him something just like it. And on his front paws, on his one finger, he has a split toenail, like this. So actually he has like 6 toenails. And what those do is those are able to go through his fur and to groom his fur really well. Now, why does he have to groom it all the time? Well, he likes to look good for Mrs. Beaver, number one. But more importantly, he lives in that cold water. And in the winter, what happens to water? It freezes. Now, if he were to get water under his fur and on his skin, and that water were to freeze, it would harm him. It would hurt him. So what God did for him, he gave him some oils. Castor oil. You are too young to know what castor oil is. But when at my age, when you got sick, you had to take castor oil. It tasted horrible, okay? But that's the kind of oil that the beaver has, and that's the kind of oil that he stirs up under his fur to keep his fur and his skin waterproof and watertight. I said God does a great job when he creates and designs. Well, he sure did help the beaver with his skin and his fur. Speaking of swimming, the beaver can actually stay underwater for 15 minutes at a time. Now, I know that we can't do that, but again, we're not aquatic creatures. God didn't design us that way, but he did design the beaver that way, okay? Here's something you're going to say, what in the world is that? I sure hope you can see it because it's a toilet. Now, what in the world does toilet have to do with a beaver? Well, let me tell you. Again, God in his wisdom, and God has a sense of humor. In your house, you have special rooms for sleeping, your bedrooms. You have a special room for eating, probably your dining room or your kitchen. You have a living room maybe where you can hang out, and you have a bathroom where you have to take care of your needs, right? Well, in beaver homes, which are called lodges, beavers also have special rooms in their homes. They have a special area that's designated strictly for eating. They have a special area strictly designated for sleeping. They have a special area where they get to hang out and do beaver things together. And they have a bathroom in their lodge to keep their lodge clean, okay? Dogs don't do that. They go wherever they see a tree, all right? But beavers are clean animals, and God designed them so that they can be taught and trained to use the potty, okay? All right, that I thought was very interesting. What does a beaver eat? Well, you'd think that he lives near water. He might like fish, but he's not a meat eater. He likes fruits and vegetables, okay? He likes to eat his mushrooms, likes to dig those up and eat them. He likes strawberries. They like strawberries, and he also likes apples, okay? He loves bananas, and remember, because he has those flexible fingers, he can actually peel the banana, all right? And he eats potatoes, okay? And of course, he likes to eat corn too. So pretty much anything you can feed him for fruits and vegetables, if you have a beaver around anywhere, he will eat it, okay, because he is a vegetarian animal. One of the other most popular things about the beaver is his tail. Now, it's a very interesting and very important part of his body. What is it composed of? Well, it's actually kind of leathery and scaly, all right, but what's inside of it is fat. Again, this is his little store for when he's, busy working and he's hungry, but he doesn't have time to eat something or he can't find something. He uses the reserve of fat in his tail to help him get nourishment. That's one of the things his tail is for. Another thing is kind of like he uses it like this thing, okay? It's like a paddle, and it helps him go down the river, all right? So he uses that for that, and also like the propeller on an airplane, okay, for steering. So when he's in the water and he's swimming and he holds a stick in his mouth and he's swimming down the river, all right, and because the stick is on this side, he's going to tend to go that way because it's kind of pulling him that way. But that's when he uses his tail. That's when that comes in. And he can turn that and he can swivel it and he can use it like a rudder and get in whatever direction he needs to go straight or go over here instead of going over there. So again, it's like a rudder for him. Another thing that he uses it for is when he is chopping down trees, he uses it for support. He might have to get up on his tiptoes. and get high to chop that tree down. So he uses his tail as a support so he doesn't tip over or fall backwards. So that's the third thing he uses it for. Another thing that probably everybody knows, it's defense. When he's out there and he's watching, you're going to have one beaver kind of like as a guard beaver. And he's watching to see what's out there, predators, okay? His other beaver buddies are busy working and they're chopping down trees and they're building their homes. What he does is he takes his tail and he slaps it real hard on the water. And the other beavers hear that. It's a warning system. And they look up and they wonder what's going on. And he lets them know that there's predators in the area and they better take cover. Have you ever been swimming and you're underwater and somebody slaps their hand real hard on top of the water? You can really hear that because water makes sound, it enhances sound. Same thing with the beaver. He uses his tail for that. And here's another thing also. He uses it for a little stool. When he's eating, okay, he puts his tail under there like that, and he's got himself a little chair, and he sits on that, and that's another good use for his tail. Now, there's two things that he does not use his tail for. One, people think he's out there pounding down on the rocks and the trees when he's building his lodges and his dams. But stop and think about it. Twigs and sticks are sharp, so are rocks. So if he took his tail and used that to slap on top of stuff like that, he might damage his tail, and it's way too important for him to do that. So he might slap some mud that's smooth or something like that, but never rocks and never sticks like that. So really, his tail is not always used to do that. And another thing, very important, that he does not use his tail for, and that's to defend himself. Again, we don't want his tail to be injured. What he uses are those sharp front claws to attack, but more likely than not, he'll probably try to run away. So the beaver's lodge is his home, and it's made out of sticks and rocks and mud and put together in an amazing way. And some of these things are miles and miles long. And God's given him the wisdom to be able to do that, have special rooms in it, and also have a roof on it so that the bad air can escape and good air can come in. But you know something? My husband and I, we live in a trailer. And you might live in a trailer, you might live in an apartment, you might live in a really fancy house. But you know, someday, if you're saved, the Bible tells us it's God's building us a mansion in heaven. And I tell you something, I'm looking forward to that because sometimes on the road it gets kind of hairy out there driving around. And I'm just looking for that nice home that the Lord's going to give me someday. And I would love to see you up in heaven too, and you can have a beautiful home in heaven. But in order to do that, you've got to trust the Lord Jesus Christ as your Savior first. And what I'd like you to do is talk to your teachers today, or the principal, or call the pastor, or someone that is saved, and you'd sit down with the Bible and show you how you can be saved, and they can lead you to the Lord, and that you can have that beautiful home in heaven someday when you die, because that's what I'm looking forward to. That's next on my list, going to heaven and being with Jesus. I hope to see you there too.